Hey everybody, welcome back to Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com and here on my YouTube channel. And today we got a really cool unboxing and a little bit of a story here. And this is probably going to be at least a two-part video series. We're going to talk about something that is, commonly known and things that, something that if you're mixing, especially in a home studio, that you really want to consider. And that is room acoustics, acoustic treatment, and then room correction. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And what I have here in this box is I have what is known as the Ferrari of room correction. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. But before we get started, if you like what you see in the video, please consider subscribing, also to notification bell. And if this video helps you in any way, shape, or form, or if this channel is helping you in any way, shape, or form, and you want to donate to support what I do here, please hit the thanks button beneath this video. That's it. Like, share, subscribe. Okay, so room correction. So let me give you a little bit of backstory. So recently, if you've been following the channel, you've seen us set up the console and gear, and we've been doing lots of renovation here, bringing in new stuff, setting up all kinds of things. And as we've been adding more racks and more gear and more items inside of the room, as I was mixing on the SSL more and more, I was starting to hear a little bit of change in the way I thought the mix was translating and what I kind of was hearing out of my main speakers, which are the focals that you can see over my shoulder here. And so I wanted to experiment with SonarWorks, or what is known now, I believe, as Reference ID, which is the room correction software. Many of you have it, use it, love it, or you don't. It's been probably the staple of room correction. There's other companies that do it, but from a software point of view, for lots of years. And I've experimented with it in the past. Really didn't have great luck with it long before I got the SSL. And so I wanted to try it again. And so about a month ago, I went ahead and I installed the Reference ID, SonarWorks, on my system. And I was quite impressed after I took the measurement, what it was doing to open up and let me hear in the room accurately really what's going on in the mix coming out of the speakers. Because in this room, as I mentioned, we are fighting not only reflections off the console, we're fighting reflections off the racks of gear. There's all kinds of secondary monitors that you can't see behind the camera for video and video lights and all kinds of stuff in this room. It's a multi-purpose studio, so it's not dedicated just for mixing. It's not a proper spec'd out control room just for mixing. It's kind of a multi-purpose studio, from mixing to recording to YouTube content and all of that stuff. And although the room is quite large, from wall to wall is about 25 feet by about 17 feet wide, there's a lot of stuff in here. And although there is acoustic treatment throughout this room, and you can see some of it over here, bass traps here from floor to ceiling. I have that on this corner. We have reflection panels here. We have all kinds of stuff, but there's a lot of hard surfaces here and things are bouncing all over the place. And so I tried the SonarWorks Sound ID or Reference ID. I forget what they call it off the top of my head, but SonarWorks. And it did help quite a bit. It helped me, know that I was getting too much bass in the room, meaning I had my subwoofer turned up kind of loud. I turned that down. And it really opened things up and it let me hear things a lot more accurately. And I found that the more I worked with it, the better my mixes were getting, the better they were translating, and more importantly, I was getting to the final result a little bit faster. And I was continuing to work with that. Then I spoke to an engineer friend of mine and they say, hey, I was telling him this story, have you ever heard of this thing called the Trinnov? And I said, no, what's the Trinnov? And they said, this is like the Cadillac or the Ferrari of room correction. It takes what SonarWorks does and it ups it 100-fold. They told me it blows anything that SonarWorks can do out of the water and then some. And I said, really? Okay, let's investigate this. I'm curious. So I started doing some YouTube research, and there's quite a few videos. You see a lot of famous engineers that have a Trinnov system. I've watched a lot of the Trinnov videos on how it works and what it's about and how is it different from the SonarWorks type of system. And so I was really intrigued. And I encourage you to go check out some of those videos. I'll maybe leave some of the links in the description box below if you're interested. So apparently what the Trinnov system does, it does, yes, what SonarWorks does, meaning that you have a measurement, a special microphone that takes measurements The way they measure your room and your speakers is different than the way SonarWorks does it. We'll get to that in a bit or in the next video. But it's supposed to be a lot more accurate, and it's supposed to do things that SonarWorks or other software room correction can't do. The big thing that it supposedly does that these other software room corrections products don't do is it deals with the whole phasing and also time alignment between the speakers and the listening position. So I did a lot of the research. Searched around, contacted the company, Trinnov, asked them a couple of questions. I will say their customer service was really good. Within a couple of hours of me sending some emails, I got some nice dialogue back and forth. They were really helpful. And I said, well, what does one of these things cost? And this is where the story kind of opens up a little bit. So let's just first get that out of the way. SonarWorks sound reference is about $300 if you would get their microphone along with the software package, both for your studio speakers and for your headphones. You can also do headphone correction with their product. The IK Multimedia, I believe, is the ARC software, is similar in price, and I guess there's a couple of others, but those are the two main ones. So for around $300, you can get set up with something like IK Multimedia's ARC or sound reference SonarWorks for $300. This contraption in this box, which we're about to unbox, with the microphone that is required to do the measurements, is almost $6,000. That's right, you heard me right. Not $300, not $3,000, $6,000 for the Trinnov system. And I said to myself, $6,000, which is what you're all doing. Half of you are laughing right now going, what idiot would spend $6,000 on something that I can do for $300? This idiot, Uncle Dave. But like I said, it does a lot more than that. So I said, wow, for $6,000, what could this thing how much better could this possibly be than the thing that everybody tends to use, which is the SonarWorks system? I said, I gotta check this out. Now, unfortunately, my good buddies at Sweetwater don't carry the Trinnov brand. However, Vintage King does, and a few other online retailers. So I inquired with Vintage King and two other online retailers asking about this Trinnov. Told them my situation, kind of like I'm telling you. I'm recently getting into SonarWorks. I'm really happy with what that's doing, but I'm curious about this. What is their experience with this Trinnov? Every one of them said, of course, as an online retailer, this thing will blow any software out of the water. They've never had a single person ever return one. It does so much more than just put an EQ on. It really does with phase and time alignment and everything that I discussed, and I guess so much more. I'm still learning about this system. And I said, boy, oh boy, I'm just curious to try. So in dealing with Vintage King is where I bought this from. I said, you know, I hear you. I'm sure it's fantastic, but unless someone's gonna come in and give me a demo, or unless I have the ability to return this thing within a reasonable amount of time, I can't pull the trigger on nearly $6,000 to do an experiment. Good buddies over at Vintage King said, no problem. We'll give you 30 days. You want to return it, you can return it for a full refund, because I can tell you no one has ever returned one. That this thing, once you get it in the room and once you get it set up, you won't be able to believe it when you compare it to anything else that's on the market. I said, you know what? Fair enough. For all my followers here at Mixing Music Analog, I'm willing to pull the trigger and do this test because as you guys know, I'm all about learning. And everything that I've done here, from all the gear to the console, every time, you know, huge risk, I want to learn, I'm having fun, and this thing really piqued my curiosity, and I want to know, does this thing really live up to the hype? And if I can return it with no risk, I'm willing to try it. And I'm hoping that it's as good as everybody says it is, because when you look at the investment that I have in this studio, $6,000 to get more accurate mixes in a faster amount of time that translate better is going to allow me to work faster, which is going to save me time and money. It's going to allow me to give my client a better product, is to have even fewer revisions being sent to me. So all of that can add up, and this could be, when you look at all the cost of everything that's around me, really isn't a very expensive item at all. And I've even had engineers tell me personally that own one of these systems that they would sell 2 or 3 pieces of gear in their racks in order to buy this. That's the reputation of this product. I know, I'm skeptical, you're skeptical, I hear you, I hear everybody laughing and writing in the comments already. I get it, and we're gonna find out. Now the difference here is, this is not a sponsored video. Nobody gave me this to try. Nobody discounted this for me. This was paid for with my own credit card, full retail price, to get both the Trinnov and the microphone that goes along with it, because you can buy them separately. You can use your own microphone, but I figured let's use their microphone. The microphone alone is $700. We're gonna take a look at it in a minute. And so I have no dog in the fight and I can return it. And I have now experience with the SonarWorks. I know what it does. I know what commercial mixes sound like in the room after that it's been corrected. And I wanna see, is this thing worth it? And then I'm gonna report back to you, because one of the things on YouTube, and again, I'm not saying anybody is being dishonest in any way, but all the videos that I've seen about people giving reviews about this, most of them are famous engineers that are making videos for the Trinnov YouTube channel. So you would expect you're gonna hear nothing but positive stuff. And again, I'm sure they're all being upfront and honest. I'm not saying that they're not. They might be, but I'm a little skeptical. I haven't seen someone other than a famous person put this through its paces and then come back and report to you and tell you whether it's really as good as they say it is. Not to mention, I don't know some of those more sponsored, maybe Trinnov videos with some of these more high-level engineers. I don't know if they gave them a Trinnov. I don't know if they paid for their Trinnov. I have no idea. I'm gonna assume it's all on the up and up. Everybody paid for theirs and it's an honest review. Maybe it is, but I'm skeptical just like you are. So we're gonna check it out. So here is the box, okay, that it comes in. We're gonna open it. We're gonna take a look at what this is. And then in the next video, once I get it hooked up, set up, and I'm able to work with it a little bit and understand it, I'm gonna report back to you and tell you what I really think, because you won't be able to hear the difference over YouTube, right? Just like you can't with SonarWorks. You can't hear what's going on in my room. But I'm gonna give you an honest assessment once I've kind of dived in a little bit and understood what this thing is doing and look at where maybe it's more in depth than SonarWorks ARC. And just give you an overview and just tell you who I think this product is for. It's not for everybody. It is a big price tag, but for someone like myself, sitting in front of all this equipment, working in a commercial capacity as a business, could be for you if you're one of those people. So let's take a look. So here it is, straight from Vintage King, Trinnov box. Let's take a look and let's see. Let's see how it's packaged. Let's see what it is. Again, I will leave some of the links in the description box below where you can go out and check out some of the videos that Trinnov made on how to set it up, how to use it. It seems super simple, just so you can get a feel for it and see what it's about. So let's see what we got here. So we got a box, obviously. All right, so in the box here, let me fold this down. We got a big piece of foam on the top. Throw that over here. The Trinnov is here. Now basically what this is like a desktop computer. It's a rack-mounted computer. So I guess the difference between Trinnov and again, a totally software-based system that runs on your internal CPU, this runs on its own computer, which is probably why it could do some of the things that these other products can't do. Okay, so we have a warranty card. I believe this also has a 2-year warranty on it. Plus from Vintage King, I got an additional year for free, so it's got a 3-year warranty. We have a printout quick start guide, an actual manual. You can get the PDF on their website. I've already read it online, but I kind of like that they give you a book. It seems like everybody today that sells products, nobody gives hard copy manuals anymore. They all want you to download stuff in order to save costs. This is a nice hard copy with a spiral bound book. I like that. I always print them out and I keep them in a binder. So we can take a look at that. We also have the power cable here as well. We're going to need that for sure. I'll put that back. Before we get to the actual brains of the operation, I think this is the microphone. Let me take a look at this. Now, each one of these Well, this is a little bit packaged pretty well. There we go. Let me take this off. I'm gonna save all the packaging in case this thing has to go back, right? So here is the microphone. Let's take the microphone out of the box. So just like with other competitors' products, you're gonna have a microphone that's calibrated to their specific system. And I'm gonna show you the difference between this and one of the SonarWorks head microphones here in a minute. So it comes in a nice little box here. Let me open up this box. Okay, so here we go. And I'll put a picture up on the screen or something. I know it's gonna be a little challenging to see. It comes with a cable that has 4 XLRs on one end that plug into the Trinnov unit in order to do the measurement of the room. And it's also got a special pin connector that goes into the microphone. We have a USB key, which has the license and the file that we're gonna need, I guess, to calibrate everything with a special serial number on it that matches up to the microphone. And here is our microphone that comes in this little special pouch. Oh, wow. So it comes in a pouch with a little cover. Okay. And I'll put an image on the screen if you guys can't see this very well, but here is the microphone, here. Okay, so what you're gonna notice right away, compared to the other microphones that you see to take room measurement from other products, is this has 4 capsules on it, okay? It has 4 capsules. And so the way, because it's got 4 microphones or 4 capsules built into this microphone, supposedly it's gonna be a lot more accurate of a measurement than when you're just using a single mono microphone by the other software companies. And I guess they also, because of the 4 capsules, it will also is how they kind of determine the phase and also the time alignment from the time the sound hits one capsule to another capsule. I gotta read more about it, but that's my basic understanding of it. So it's a beautiful microphone made really well. And again, it comes in this little cover to protect it. And again, the microphone itself is $700 or $800. Which you think, you know, $800 for a microphone that basically you're gonna use once. And once your room is set up, this goes back in its case and you don't use it again. But I suppose if you had a system like this as a long-term investment, you ever move studios, you ever rearrange your room, you always have the microphone to recalibrate your system. So we're gonna put that back in its case. We don't wanna ruin that for sure. So that is the microphone and the special cables that come along with it, along with we have the microphone stand adapters in here as well, because we're gonna put it on a microphone stand in the listening position. And then we have our serial number on our USB key. And it comes in this little trusty little box here, Trinnov. Okay. Now, for the main event, we have packed in foam. Oh wow, this thing is heavy. Oh wow, that's really heavy. Get another piece of paper in here. My invoice, to prove to you that I actually bought it. Nobody gave it to me. Let's get this box out of it. Wow, this thing weighs a ton and it comes in this nice protective case. So we're gonna get this out of here. Somehow, some way. Jeez. Oh my, wow, this thing weighs a ton. Okay. So it comes in this protective bag here. Let's take this out of the bag. Okay, so this thing again, it is a computer. It's a rack-mounted computer is what it is. And it weighs a ton. It weighs probably more than any single piece of gear I have in that rack. By far, by far. I don't know what the exact weight of it is, but my goodness, it's heavy. Let me see if I can get this thing out of here. All right. And I don't want to ruin the bag or anything like that. So you need to have some space to put this thing, certainly. But it's rack mountable, so you could put it in a standard rack. And it also has feet on the bottom, so if you just want to put it as a desktop type of a thing, which is kind of how I'm going to use it, but let's move this out of the way. So here it is. This is the ST2 Pro. They also, which is really for audio and control rooms. They also make stuff, they also make units for home theater systems, surround sound, that are much more expensive. This is actually the cheapest unit If you get stuff for surround sound or 7.1 or Dolby or anything, you're talking 10 grand for one of these units. Okay, there it is. The thing's heavy. It's hard to hold it, my goodness. Okay, so on the front, what do we have? Just the panel here, on-off switch, and we have our USB key. So we could put our license for our microphone in there, and probably for firmware updates and those kinds of things. Around the back, and again, I'll put an image up on the screen if it's hard for you guys to see. You have, let me just look at it here and then I'll put an image up. So from left to right, we have our power cable, we have a secondary on-off switch. You can control this box from a Mac application on your current computer, which is how we're probably gonna do it. But you can also put a mouse, a keyboard, and a secondary monitor. So if you wanna have its own mouse, keyboard, monitor to control this computer, you can do that as well. We have a network cable, which we're gonna need. We have 4 USB-A type ports, which I'm not sure what those are for. And then it looks like we have a VGA output for all the computer stuff. Then along the XLR side, we have both 2 digital inputs and digital outputs if you're using a digital system, digital speakers, those kinds of things. And then we have 4 analog XLR ins and 4 analog XLR outs. So the way this system works is that you can have 2 sets of speakers. So if you have, your main set and a secondary set, you can do that, which is great. So I guess the inputs, the 4 XLR inputs when we're doing the measurement is where we're gonna plug in that special XLR cable that came with the microphone is gonna go into there, and then our speakers are gonna go to the outputs. And that's it. So basically you have analog ins, 4 of them, ins and outs, digital ins and outs, you have 2 of them. So if you had a set of digital speakers and you had a couple of sets of analog, traditional, you would have 3 sets of speakers that you can hook up to, which is kind of cool. And then we have the word clock, I guess for maybe more advanced setups. Again, I don't know much about it. We're gonna figure that out. So now the way this gets hooked up, apparently according to the manual, you can use this with a console, you can use this with a regular standard audio interface, either with both digital and or analog ins and outs. It'll work with anything. The way I'm going to be using it is out of the SSL, we have a monitor output on a DB25 connector. That goes to 3 sets of XLR cables, which go to 3 different sets of speakers. If you had 3 different sets of speakers, I have 2. And then you can switch on the console between those speakers, which is how I have it. I have my main focals, I have my cue, my Avatones, and then I have a boombox over here in the rack. Those are my 3 sets of speakers coming out of the SSL. So it's a DB25 connector that branches off to 3 pairs of XLRs. So the way this is going to be hooked up, it's going to come out of the SSL. The first pair of XLR cables that would go to my focals, those are going to go to the inputs, the analog inputs 1 and 2 on the Trinnov. Then out of analog inputs 1 and 2, those will go from the Trinnov to the focals. So you want this to be the last thing in your chain, okay? And if I'm gonna use my second set of speakers, my Avatones, right? I would come out of the SSL on that second pair of XLRs to inputs 3 and 4 on the Trinnov, and then out of analog outputs 3 and 4 on the Trinnov to my Avatone speakers. And then what I can do is I can still now switch on the console between the 2 speakers, and you would do a measurement for your focals and you would do a measurement for the Avatones, and you'll be able to switch back and forth and hear both sets of speakers with the correction in place. At least that's how I understand it. And we'll get more into that in the next video, because I really want to do this off camera, understand it, and report back to you really how this works. However, again, there's lots of videos online already from the Trinnov team on exactly how this works, both from a very basic installation to a more advanced installation. You may want to go check this out. So we're going to get into all of that. So here it is. Here is the Trinnov ST2 Pro. Again, it weighs a ton. What I'm probably going to do is I'm going to leave it just like this, and I'm just going to set it right on top of my my sidecar rack, which has all of my I/O, has my power supply, my computer. I'm probably just going to sit it right on that top shelf, so I don't have to take up any valuable rack space. And I'm going to set this thing up. I'm going to get it all up and running. I'm going to try it out, work with it a little, understand it a little, and then I'm going to come back in another video and we're going to take a look at the graphs, the before and after. We're gonna take a look at the measurement graphs that the Trinnov does before and after, and also I'm gonna show you what SonarWorks did before and after, and we're gonna compare them. And I'm thinking, at least I'm hoping, that I'm gonna be able to, I know with the Trinnov, just like with SonarWorks, that you're gonna have an app on the screen that I can listen, you're gonna be able to bypass and take this in and out of the circuit so I can hear the before and after, just like you can with SonarWorks. But what I'm hoping is I'm gonna be able to turn off the Trinnov correction and then turn on SonarWorks so I could hear the difference between what is the SonarWorks doing that I've been working with for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and how does it sound, or does it sound any different with the Trinnov? How is the correction differ from not only an EQ perspective, but again, the big selling point of this box, from what I've read and what I've been told, and everybody that I've talked to, is not so much the EQ part of it, because the other products do that as well, although this maybe does it more accurately with the more high-end 4-capsule microphone, but the phase alignment, the phase correction, and the time alignment, from the time that the sound comes out of the left and right speakers to the time it hits you at the listening position. That's something that these other products don't do. And the phase, they say, will really clear things up, and you'll have a much more 3D perception and a much wider stereo image and a much more center image. So we're gonna see, and I'm gonna give you my honest opinion. So stay tuned to the channel over the next couple of weeks, where we're gonna do a follow-up here with the Trinnov. I'm gonna let you know whether it's worth it and let you know whether I kept it or not. I'm gonna tell you whether it's worth it, and then as I get more familiar with it, I'm gonna talk to you about who I think this product might be for and who is it not for, because it is a big ticket item. Let's face it, $6 grand for room correction is huge, but it could be the best $6 grand I ever spent in the studio. We're gonna find out. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so when you see when we come back with the video in a few weeks on the Trinnov. You wanna see what the conclusion is? You gotta stay tuned. You gotta be tuned to the channel. Make sure you do that. Let me know in the comments below if you ever heard of the Trinnov. Have you ever used one? Have you ever been in a studio where they had one? Did you do some research with the links in the description box? What are your thoughts? And again, in the comments, let's not just do the obvious. Oh my God, it's $6,000. It can't be $6,000 better, blah, 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 blah. Let's put that aside for a second. Just like we did with the console, right? Everyone said it's not $60,000 better than plugins. It's not worth 60 grand. I get it. And I don't disagree with you necessarily. But let's put the money part aside and let's just talk about what this can do versus what the competitors do. Let's talk about it in that way. I'm not saying you should run out and spend $6,000. I don't even know if I'm gonna really spend $6,000. It may go back. But let's have that dialogue. I'm learning. I'm not an expert in this stuff, neither are a lot of you, and I'm gonna try to bring information to you to let you know whether this product is worth it or not. And if you are someone who has a setup similar to this or works in a professional capacity, is this something, instead of buying the next fancy color box that's gonna cost you 2 or 3 grand, or whatever, or the next microphone that's gonna cost you 2 or 3 grand, is this something that is maybe a better investment that's gonna help you get to the end game faster? I don't know. So anyway, thank you for watching me today. I've been Dave with Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com. Thank you so very much for watching me today, everybody. I'll see you guys soon.